Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to In the Garden with Joyful Living. I am your host, Kimberly Dixon. I'm so glad to and excited to be on with you all this afternoon. You know, I typically do my In the Gardens at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, but it got a little cold last night, so I had to turn my porch into a fort sort of to protect my plants. So I did. It takes a long time to get all of this stuff reorganized. So while we wait for a few people to join us, let me show you the garden for this week. Hi, Valerie Dixon. That's my sister. Thank you for joining in. Please share the video. So while we wait for a few people to join, let me show you the progress of everything. That is the Better Bush tomato. Excuse me, let me back up. I don't want to neglect anybody. These are my blue-eyed African daisies. Last week I said they were violets, but these are actually daisies. I get a little excited sometimes. So those are the blue-eyed African daisies. This is my bed with my Better Bush tomato that is growing exponentially. It looks so good and healthy. The marigolds are struggling. It's been a little cool. I'm gonna tell y'all, every year I say I'm gonna wait until all danger of frost has passed so that I don't have to go through the trouble of covering them at night. But as soon as it gets a little bit warm, I get excited and I plant. And this happens every year. But my basil is still doing well. That's the Roma tomato. It is a determinate variety and it shouldn't need to be staked. But I think I'm gonna have to stake it because it's growing crooked and I don't want it to get top heavy and fall over. That's my other Better Bush tomato. It's doing wonderful. That's my squash. This is my first time ever trying to do squash, and it's looking well. I just hope that I have enough pollinators to actually get some squash this year. My red bell pepper, the kale is still doing wonderful. I've been eating off of this, actually. I've had several kale salads. So that's why some of it looks a little sparse because I've been cutting on it. That's my green bell pepper. That rosemary is struggling. I switched the position of it with the other one because the other one's doing very well. It was getting a lot of sun and this one wasn't getting as much, so it needs some sun. But this is my new beauty, my miniature rose that I planted on yesterday. So red is my favorite color. So I usually put a red miniature rose. Oh, hey, Beth. So glad you're on with Val. But this is my yellow rose bush. And I chose yellow this year because yellow is the color of joy. And I'm joyful living. That's my other rosemary. See, it looks much better than the other one. My strawberry baskets. Hey, Carolyn. So glad to have you on with us today. We're going to get started in just a minute. But I don't have any ripe berries right now because I just harvested some on day before yesterday. So there aren't any ripe ones now. That's another daisy. That's going to be a beautiful red color. The collard greens are doing fantastic. The arugula is doing fantastic. I've been eating it and it's laying over because I just watered everything. So it'll pop back up. My romaine lettuce looks divine. Been eating that too. My other bin of collard greens. Cabbage looks exceptional. It's growing very well. That's the other cabbage. And then that's some mint. Oh, and look, y'all, I got a baby. I know it's ridiculous, but look, it's a green bean sprout. And I haven't seen any other ones yet, but I'm going to move it to a sunnier spot. Hey, Joy. Thank you. Y'all know this is something that brings me a lot of joy, and I've put more time and energy into it this year than I typically do because I can't do any speaking engagements right now. So I'm spending much more time outdoors. So before I get started, let me tell y'all about my day. So I didn't do it this morning. I went and worked out with my trainer, which we are practicing social distancing and we're foregoing the hugs and things of that nature. But I worked out with my trainer this morning. Hey, Judy. And I failed twice for the first time since I've been working out with him the entire time that you know, I've been working with him for a while now, but I fell this morning doing this. He trying to work me. But so then, tired, exhausted, I come home. I told my sister we talked on the way back, I was going to eat, take a bath, and then take a nap. But as the way I feel, if I lay down now, I'm going to wake up and the sun going to be going down. So I figured if I'm going to do it in the garden today, it better happen before I take a nap. So then, that ain't all. I done been falling and rolling all over the ground. But then I took my trimmers I had and shaped my hair up a little bit. I can't do anything with the top because I'm not a barber. I don't know how to cut hair. And it looked good this morning. You know, I just shaped the little edges up, trimmed that side down a little bit. But when I got out of the bath just now, I noticed that I missed a plug of hair on this side. Well, I was like, let me fix that before I do my garden in the garden. And as soon as I put the clipper to my head, the guard fell off and I cut a plug of hair out. So I've had a crazy kind of day. But, you know, I knew that trying to do my own hair, it was a distinct possibility I was going to mess it up. And I did. So, but I'm not even mad about it. It's hair and it grows back because I cut this. I didn't lose it due to illness or sickness or anything. I did that. So, you know, I'm the first one that will laugh at myself when I fell this morning. I laughed. My trainer said, "You're okay?" I was like, "I'm okay." He was like, "Well, I'm glad to see you laughing." I'm like, "Well, you know, I can laugh at myself. I didn't get hurt and I was already in a triangle-like position. So I was only like 2 feet from the ground as opposed to falling from my full height." Thank you, Jordan. It's like that. I have a really curly hair pattern. But so today's topic is keeping your hope. So, you know, in our current environment, hey, Sabrina, I keep getting to say good morning to people, but hey, Sabrina, guys, please share the video because I can't tag anybody. But today's topic is keeping your hope. In the current environment and with some of the restrictions, people are starting to feel a little bit hopeless. I've had several conversations with people this past week, and it ain't even really the staying indoors. It's just watching the news constantly, and everything seems to be getting worse instead of better. Hi, Betty. People are starting to feel a little hopeless. But before I go into that, you know, we're spending more time with family. We're in the house with family. Now is a great time to restart some family traditions that we have let go of. I remember growing up, we had traditions. We didn't really even call them traditions. It was just a given that on Sunday morning, thank you for sharing, Carolyn, not Sunday morning, but on Sunday, we were going to have Sunday dinner with the whole family. But now that the whole family is together, it's an opportunity for us to reinstitute some traditions or start some new traditions that we've never done. Now this is an opportunity that we haven't had. So let's take advantage of this. Let's start some of those traditions back up that kept families tight, because, you know, we're not as tight as we used to be. My family is huge on both sides, and we still love each other and we get together occasionally, but it's nothing like the way we used to get together when we were younger. So even though we can't get together with everybody in the family, with the people that are in your household, reinstitute some of those traditions that we have let go of, so that we can keep our bonds strong, so that when trying times come up, we can rely on each other and, you know, just rebuild and reconnect the family to the institution that it used to be. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to take my nap from my workout before I did in the garden, but figured I probably would sleep until sundown. So I am relying on my notes, and the wind is blowing. So if you see me running or anything, it's because I'm trying to chase my paper down. But the first tip to keeping your hope is to make some plans for the future. So we've had events, trips, and things of that nature that are being canceled in massive amounts recently. But to start feeling hopeful again, I want you to make some plans for something that is later this year or for 2021 that you've actively got to work on. So my 50th birthday is in November, and I'm planning on having a birthday party in November. So I'm working on that with my Keisha and Tara, my two best friends. We are actively working on planning my party. And just in case something crazy happens and we don't get to have it in November, I will have my party in 2021 if I have to, but I'm having a 50th birthday party. So just the simple fact of having something to look forward to in the future helps you feel hopeful about today. Hey, Sherry, thank you for getting on. Guys, please share the video if you haven't already done so. So make some plans for something in the future that you got to work on, something that you can look forward to, whether it be a trip or, you know, planting your fall garden. I've already started thinking about some things that I'm going to do for the fall, because I usually just do a spring garden. But guess what? Come September, I'm going to plant some potatoes and sweet potatoes and broccoli and those things, and some more collard greens, those things that do well in cooler temperatures, because gardening is not just something you can do in the spring. So I'm already planning what I'm going to put in my garden for the fall. The second tip is look to others for inspiration and motivation. I don't care who you are. We need inspiration and motivation from others. I need it. So every day, look at some kind of video from your favorite pastor, motivational speaker, or life coach, somebody that is going to help encourage you when you're feeling hopeless, when you're feeling like you don't know where to turn or what to do concerning the current world that we're living in. And in looking to others for some positivity and some uplifting, we got to silence the negative people in our life. That means that you're going to have to stop entertaining people who drag you down. I say limit here because sometimes those people that drag you down, they may be your family. They might be your siblings. They may be your parents. And you don't want to cut off all ties with your family, but you do have some control over the amount of time that you spend talking and entertaining them. And if you're talking to them and they spread nothing but negativity, just tell them, it's like, look, you know, let's talk about something else. Something that, you know, that is generally pleasing to them, so that the conversation can go in a different direction. But we have one of the major things that we have to do in our life is recognize everybody's position in it. Everybody can't be a starter in your life. Some of them you gotta be on second squad. Doesn't mean they're less important, because I done seen some second squad basketball teams, and I don't even know what it's called. God, I have forgotten. I haven't watched any kind of sports in such a long time. I have forgotten what it's called. But they are critical to the team. They may not be your starting player. They may not be the one you put on the court first. Hi, Robert. So the second thing is look to others for inspiration, whether that's a pastor, a life coach, a motivational speaker. And then the A part of that is to silence those people in your life who are doing nothing but spreading negativity. Hi, Cynthia. And then the number 3 tip to keeping your hope is focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do. You can spend more time with your family now. You can cook dinner, or you can learn how to cook. Because I'm going to be honest with y'all, guys. I know the most people, second string, yes, that's what it is, Carolyn, thank you. I know so many people who don't know how to cook. They have been relying on eating out for most of their adult lives, and now that they're having to stay at home and fend for themselves a little bit more, they're finding that to be difficult. Now it's a perfect opportunity for you to learn how to cook. And if Judy's on, watch Judy sometime. I met Judy at Mount Calvary Church earlier this year, but she actually lives in Rochester, New York. And at 5 p.m. on a lot of days, she'll show you how to cook something simple. But so, you know, focus on what you can do instead of the things that you can't do. You can go to the park. You can choose to be grateful every day of your life. Hi, Toya. That's my cousin. So good to have so much of my family on with me today. So focus on those things that you can do in life instead of focusing on what you can't do. And guys, again, please forgive me for stammering so much, because when I tell you this sister is tired, I done failed twice. I done cut a plug out my hair, and it's been like one of those kind of days, but I am still grateful, and I am still going to do what God has called me to do, regardless of what I am physically feeling like. So the number three tip was to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do. I was focusing on trying to cut my own hair, trim my own hair this morning. And we've learned that I can't do that. But guess what? I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to keep trying it again just to keep myself I'm not a vain person, but just so I don't look so scraggly, because, you know, I have a mohawk, and if you don't cut it and trim it, all of this will start to blend in. But anyway, I cut it, I messed it up, and guess what? Next week, I'm going to try to trim it again after the plug grow back in. Hi, Carolyn. Thank you for joining us today. So, tip number 4 is do something kind for someone else. We've always heard the expression that when you're feeling bad or when you're feeling low, to do something for someone else, it'll always lift your spirits. Well, that is absolutely true, because being kind affects you, and it affects the person that you're being kind to. It reaps dividends all over the place. And earlier I mentioned starting some new reinstituting some of those family traditions, like having Sunday dinner. Well, now's the perfect time for you to do something kind for someone else. Call an elderly neighbor, somebody that lives across the street or a couple of houses up, and ask them, do they want some dinner? And leave it on their porch for them, and then let them get it. It's a perfect way for you to share some kindness without actually having to come into contact with somebody. You can, it'll make you feel good. It'll make them feel good, because often, guys, we forget how lonely it can be for elderly people, especially if they live alone. Hi, Janelle. Thank you for joining us. So it'll make them feel good. It'll make you feel good. It'll provide a delicious meal for them. It will let them know that they are not invisible and that somebody is thinking about them. And it'll help get rid of some of those leftovers, so you don't go back to the refrigerator 50 times in one evening, because we all been snacking a little bit more than we normally do. So when you are kind to somebody, that simply sharing a meal with somebody else is going to reap exponential dividends. It'll have reap dividends for you. It'll reap dividends for them. You cannot beat being kind to others. So tip number 4 for keeping your hope is share some kindness, because it will make you feel better. Guys, please share the video if you haven't already done so. And tip number 5, and which is going to be our last tip, is to turn to your faith. Our hope lies in Jesus. This world can be so dark sometimes, and life is hard. I don't care who you are or where you're from. Our life can be hard at times, but Jesus is our light. He is our strength. He is our way maker. He is our hope. And we have the Spirit of God inside of us. So God resides in us. So if Jesus is the light and God resides in us, then that light that you're searching for, that hope, is already on the inside of you. And darkness cannot exist in the light. So that reminds me of, a couple of years ago, I did a little bit of spoken word. I haven't really done any since, but this was one of the first pieces. I'm not going to read the entire piece, but just the end of it, because the name of it was Darkness to Light. And when I was writing my notes for this, it reminded me of, I wrote that piece called Darkness to Light. And so the end of that piece reads, darkness is everywhere. And I'm reading it because I've only performed this once, and that was 2 years ago. It says, darkness is everywhere, but it's not really real, you see. It's a fallacy, an illusion. It's not real to me. Darkness is simply the absence of light, and that light is already in me. God planted light in me before I was ever born. My life is not a punishment, but that of a chosen one. My journey, though painful and heartbreaking, built up something in me that is undeniable and unshakable, because that light, He resides in me. Then you can turn to, I've been talking about Psalms for weeks and weeks and weeks now, and that's because they have so much inspiration, faith, and hope embedded all through it. So Psalms 119 and 114 says, you are my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your word. And then Romans 15 and 4 says, for whatever it was written in former days was written for our instruction, and that through endurance and through the encouragement of the scriptures, we might have hope. Turn to your scripture for hope when you're feeling discouraged, when you're tired, when you're scared, uncertain, and fearful. Turn to God for all of your needs and he will do just what he said he would do. His word is never going to return void, not ever. See, he wrote a promissory note to us when he gave, he wrote a promissory note to us eons ago. And his promissory note is not going to ever be returned insufficient funds. You know, I used to work at a bank, and sometimes checks would get returned to people with a stamp on them that said insufficient funds. Where the promissory note that God has written to us is never going to get stamped insufficient funds. He made a promise to us. When he signed that promissory notes, and we are the sons and daughters of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We are the heirs to that promissory note. We are his children. And he will keep his promise to us in all situations. So don't look to understand everything in life, because everything is not meant to be understanding. There is no understanding to this. I don't care what any scientist says, but to truly be able to wrap your mind around really what's going on, there isn't going to be any understanding to that. But we can look to God in everything instead of trying to understand everything. Just look to him. Keep your eyes on him. Last week I talked about keeping your focus. So guys, thank you for watching In the Garden with Joyful Living. I'm Kimberly Dixon. Please share the video. Thank you guys so much for all getting on. It was such a pleasure to be with you. I love you. Bye-bye. Don't tell anybody I messed my hair up, but I'm going to mess it up again. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.